about. Shmaya is going to do for me, even if he says l'chaim. Isn't there a lach if you have pachad, you become sober?
That's what he said. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah. The Rebbe walks in, you straighten up quickly.
Exactly. Rabbi Fuchs told me a story. Rabbi Fuchs was my teacher. 50 years ago this year, Tafshin Lnedבות.
What?
Rabbi Fuchs taught me Besachta Bava Basra with 50 yards a So whenever I would see him in the street, he would stop and tell me a story, 20, 30 years after I was in his class. So one of the stories he told me, this is a very, very terrible way to mention Chamisha B'Teves. Rabbi Fuchs was the only guy who was able to be a chavrusa with the other guy in the story of Chamisha B'Teves. A, he was smart enough, and B, he was humble enough, because he was very hard to deal with.
You went to the Levi, right? I went to his Levi.
He was his chavrusa. Because it was his chavrusa, normal yusa, heintin and talking grace. He was his chavrusa. So,
you're talking about when he was like a bacher?
Yeah, in Advask in Poland. They're about the same age. So, because he was chavrusa, so he took him into the house. Come to my house. But his house was the Frierdiker Rebbe's house. So Fuchs saw things that most people didn't see because his chavrusa invited him to the house. He came to the house. So one of the things he saw was as follows. It was Shmini Atzeres, and there were two sukkahs. There was a private sukkah and the public sukkah. The sukkah for everybody and the sukkah for the family. Yeah? The private sukkah was very beautifully decorated.
Really?
You walked in, the finest crystal. By old Rebbe, only Rebbe who lived like a poor man. It was our Rebbe. Well, the Rebbe didn't live like, but the Rebbe lived like another man. You know what? The Rebbe was like an other man. Mendy Simon, Zalzang Gezun told me.
Mendy Simon,
that his father was, by profession, he was upholsterer. He made curtains.
Right.
So when they built the apartment for the Rebbetzin in the library, so they called him to make curtains for the apartment. So the Rebbetzin came. The Rebbetzin had incredible taste. She chose the fabric, and they let her the design for the apartment. And then the Rebbetzin says to him, "We have not put curtains up in our home since we moved in." This is the 1980s. So maybe come to the house and maybe put up curtains. So he came, we took Mendy with him. How old was Mendy? 7, 8 years old. Yeah. He told me the story himself. You don't have to believe me, but the Ramam Shir tomorrow, you'll ask him. They came to the house. No, it was earlier, 82, 83. What you don't hear, you're not meant to hear. Bashgocha Protis, you were busy talking. Bashgocha Protis, you're not going to know it. I'd save Kol HaDeiros later. Said they're good Nishafen. Said they're good Nishafen.
Back in Yeshiva.
Lubavitch Yeshiva, when he talked, he interrupted me. He didn't talk to the neighbors. He talked directly to me. Akitze, so that she came to the house. He measured all the windows. And the Rebbetzin chose fabric. And he had to give an estimate. So he called him a few days later, gave an estimate. And the Rebbe said, "I'll call you back." She called him back a couple of days later and said, "I'm canceling the order, we can't afford it." That's the end of the story.
Oh my God.
There was no cheaper fabric, there was no donations, there was nothing to talk about. Wow. The Rebbe and the Rebbetzin lived on a budget. Whatever they earned. I mean, Telushkin writes that Rebbe earned $16,000 a year. $16,000 a year. The Rebbe stays $16,000. He didn't keep 9 to 5 hours. 16, and it never changed. The price never went up. So he says to his father, Joe Telushkin says, "Dad, isn't the guy entitled to a raise?" What's the answer? It's private stuff. You're not allowed to read it. Joe Telushkin has it in his book. His father was the Rebbe's accountant. He saw how much money the Rebbe earned. The Rebbe had an income of her own. Islam was more than the Rebbe's income. But if they didn't have the money, they didn't buy it. They lived much autumn. But the Rabbeim didn't live like that. Only the Rebbe lived like that, which is interesting. It's so interesting and it's so consistent. Anyway, so he told me, Rabbi Fuchs, that he was in this private sukkah and it was beautiful. And it was Poland. Poland was a poor country. They were the best mashkois, imported mashkois, expensive mashkois. And the Rebbe walked in. He was then called the Ramash, with one of his buddies, one of his chavre, one of his close friends. Who was the close friend of the Rebbe, a chassid, but you may remember him by the name of Rabbi Shmuel Zalmanov. Remember the name of Shmuel Zalmanov? He was be'emes ha'greisa chassid. He was be'emes ha'greisa chassid. And in Das Tachten, he was one of the most important people in making the Rebbe. Kvayach. Shmuel Zalman was a big chassid. He really was. He was extremely close to the Rebbe. They were Pashut friends. They had a chavrusa together. They learned together. They sat down, and I don't know how to say this. I'll say it the way he told it to me. Wat ongem trinken. The Rebbe and the Shmuel.
Oh.
But they didn't drink like you drink. You think you know how to drink. Glasses. 1, 2, 3. They were drinking in a way that a normal person would just plots. It was Shmini Atzeres.
Okay.
And Rabbi Fuchs is watching this. I mean, you're talking about grace and mention. Wegen dem Rebbe redt man nicht. Aber Shmuel Zalman was a pnimis dikerid. This is the whole business of drinking and chassidus and avodah. We drink, you get drunk. Real people get drunk, they become realer. But they drank a lot of mashke in a relatively short amount of time. And then somebody walked into the sukkah and went over to the Rebbe, to the Ramash, and said, the Rebbe, the Shvedruf, the Fiedeke was calling. So Rabbi Fuchs said he watched this. The Rebbe stood up, straightened his gartel, and he walked straight. And he should not have been able to walk straight. And he said, ich hab gefühlt. You didn't know Fuchs. Ich hab gefühlt. Wie ein General geht zum Kaiser. The feeling I had at that moment is the general is going to his king. Wie ein General geht zum Kaiser. It was his hergesh. I'm saying it bekeshet to what you said. Yayin kosher, pach. He said he watched it. Ich hab gefühlt. I started telling you a story before and I didn't finish it. I wrote myself a note. I shouldn't forget to tell you a story. My son walks in from 2 o'clock in the morning last night from a Farbrengen and he tells me, Ma zari b'chaim, afu b'chaim. So I said to him, it's shlichus. It is, it's shlichus. And in our way, we're all shluchim. It's shlichus. Zari b'chaim is shluchim. Shluchim. And the Rebbe has thousands of shluchim. Unbelievable. Including shluchim, well, not only, they never saw the Rebbe, their parents never saw the Rebbe. And then mukusharim. They get it, as they say in the language of Lubavitch. They get it. There's a dead head. There's a sense of what this is, what this relationship is, and what the mandate is. So I said to my son, Zare b'chaim hu b'chaim this is shlichus, and I told him shlichus is mesiras nefesh. And my son told me something incredibly wise. Look through all the Rebbe sichos. The Rebbe never refers to shlichus as mesiras nefesh. Never. It is a mesiras nefesh. But the Rebbe never allows you to even feel you're going on shlichus to who knows where. You should say, okay, at least acknowledge. No, it's not mesiras nefesh. It's the kavanah. It's your purpose. And it's such a, it's true. It's so incredibly true. The Rebbe never felt that when you go on shlichus, doing him a favor. That's what you are. That's what I am. That's what you are. I have a shlichus. My shlichus is more important than your shlichus, but the Rebbe has a shlichus. We have shlichus. We're shluchim. We're shluchim. And what's a shlichus? What's my duty? Like the Lashon of the Yem, avos mendav dich. What are we needed for? This is the Hu B'chaim. I forgot to mention. I got distracted. I wanted to finish this part, but from what I said earlier. You know, there's a lot of stories. People with the Rebbe, it's unbelievable. The stories that you hear with the Rebbe. I'm talking about now. People go to the oil, people have dreams, people see the Rebbe in videos. There's Gilui Elokus in an incredible way. Gilui Elokus in an incredible, mamish, it's unbelievable. Seeing the Rebbe in our lives is so accepted. It's so normal. It's so everyday. It's davar hapashat. Everybody knows that the Rebbe is in our life. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. I just want to say one comment on this phenomenon, which I know it personally, and I think it's not a personal truth. I think it's a truth for many, many people. We see the Rebbe in our lives in our shlichus. In other words, we in our life we do a lot of things. All of us have complicated lives, and part of that complication is, thank God we're married, we have children, we have wives, we have responsibilities, we have businesses, we're busy people. The place where you feel and see the Rebbe is in your work. Of all the things you do, there are things that you do for the Rebbe. I had a Farbrengen chafov in a shul, and I told the story that got someone very, very upset. Because the story I told was a story about Label Groner. It's an interesting thing. They printed 2 volumes called Hamaskir. You really have to read them. Because it's so authentic. You can't get much closer to the Rebbe, and it's coming out now. I don't necessarily agree with the method. I think they just print the journal the way it is. They just print the diary from beginning to end, just print it. But they're not doing that. They're printing sections. They're taking different parts of the Rebbe and his relationship with Rabbi Groner, and they're publishing them as sections. So they have a little section of it at the end of the second volume about Rabbi Groner going to the country, Label Groner going to the country. And it's so interesting for a lot of reasons. One of them is Rabbi Groner apparently did not like to go to the country. He didn't like it. He didn't like it. The unfortunate reality was he had a wife and he had kids, and his wife was one of the most lonely women on the planet. If you got married to a secretary of the Rebbe, you knew you were second. It's very hard on any woman, on any person. But if your husband was the Rebbe's maskir, you were second. The Rebbe came first. That was the conditions of the marriage. And on top of that, if they went to the mountains, she says, her whole life is sacrificed. Bemis. The wives of the maskirim, it's unbelievable the degree of their sacrifice. They never have a husband. Kami came home. So it's 2 o'clock. This is not the story I want to tell. This story I'm telling you before the story I want to tell. It's 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, and Label's in the office. It's Erev Tisha B'Av Shabbos. The intercom rings. Label picks up the phone. I'm calling him Label, yeah? It's Meichel Zayn, yeah? Rabbi Gron picks up the phone, and the Rebbe says to him, he's the only person in the office. The Rebbe says to him, Du trachst vorne in the Berg of Shabbos? You think you're going to go to the country for Shabbos? He says, no. I think there was a Nefesh Habamis involved also over here. He didn't like. I don't think he liked it too much, but he tells the Rebbe, have a lot of work. So the Rebbe says to him, dacht sich mir, as a pi halacha is nicht da kein heter, a du sollst bleiben da. I think according to halacha, there's no heter for you not to go up to your wife and your family. There's not going to be a Farbrengen, don't worry. Matzah Shabbos, you'll make a minyan. If you're very worried about a minyan, there'll be a minyan for you, Matzah Shabbos in the country, for Kinnis, for Echa. Go. So he got into the car and he drove up to the mountains. His wife was not expecting him. He shows up, and his wife says to him, she's a very sensitive lady. His wife says to him, you know that last night I was laying in bed, and I was davening to the Eibush that you'll come for Shabbos. She didn't tell him. The Rebbe told him. I was laying in bed, davening to the Eibush that you'll come for Shabbos. To her it meant so much, that her husband came to the mountains. Anyway, this was so moving to him, so he wrote the story into the Rebbe. This book, this Maskir book, just to read about him and his wife and the Rebbe, it's just so sweet. The Rebbe was mamish a father to them. He was so close to them. There was so much love. They were afraid of him. But the Rebbe wasn't afraid of them. The Rebbe said, he was Nazif Liebschaft. So when he came back after Shabbos, he wrote the story into the Rebbe. He wrote to the Rebbe what his wife said. That she lay in bed Thursday night and saying, oh, if only my husband will come. And he came. So the Rebbe wrote a minor, an answer. And it was to her. She didn't have it easy. She raised the kids alone. It was a very hard life. And so the Rebbe wrote, when you see a nest from the Eibishter, you have to use it as a tool to remember that the Eibishter is in your life always. When you see such an incredible Gilel, that's what this was. You have to make it as a raya that you should, when you're in a bad mood and you feel abandoned, the Eibishter is there. This becomes a proof for that. That's what I wrote to her. To him, to her, whatever it is. But what I said in Shul was that Label used to write a duch to the Rebbe of his trips to the mountains. You have to understand, when Label Groner came to the mountain, it wasn't Label Groner's problem. It was the whole bungalow colony's problem. Because he would report to the Rebbe hour by hour what happened in the bungalow colony. If Shlomo got chicken, the Rebbe knew Sunday morning that Shlomo got chicken. So when Label came, you had to behave because the Rebbe it was his job. The Rebbe wants, so what do you do? What do you do from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock? And from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock? And from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock? So Label gave a duch. Mamish, hour by hour. Friday before Lichbenchen, we had a shir in such and such. Friday night, there was a shir in the Sikh. And after the meal, the women got together, and he describes everything to the Rebbe. Shabbos morning with a shir in the Maimon. After that, we had a shir in the Shulchan. Then we had a Farbrengen until Mincha. And Sunday went on Mitzvah. In all the letters that he publishes in the back of the book of the second volume. They publish a whole bunch of these letters. The Rebbe answers often, but always about the Mivtzoim. Never about the davening, never about the learning, about the Shem. Only is about the Mivtzoim. And when I read it, I mean, I'm a Torah person. I'm not a Mivtzoim. I'm a Lubavitcher. I serve the Rebbe, but I teach Chassidus. I put a tefillin on Yidden, but that's not my job. I don't look for Yidden to put on tefillin. I find Yidden, I put tefillin on him. The Rebbe acknowledged only the Mivtzoim. So what I said in the Farbrengen, and I think it's true, is the truth of the matter is, we have no connection to the Rebbe. We're so far away. There's no kesher. The only kesher is when we do what he says. He didn't say we should learn Torah, the Eibishter did. He didn't say we should daven, the Eibishter did. He said go on Mivtzoim. He's acknowledging the Mivtzoim, not because Mivtzoim is more important than davening and learning, but because this is where the kesher is. He's responding to the hiskashrus. He's responding to where a chassid and a Rebbe have a connection. And in our generation, that's what it is. When the Rebbe gave dollars, there were people who asked the Rebbe why he's giving dollars to Tankisten. So the Rebbe said, who should give dollars to? Give it to the younger like in Koilu. Go to the Bacham and sit and keep saying it. And the Rebbe said to this person, really? You have to reward a person for learning Torah? Like, come on, that's obvious. That's what the Rebbe told that person. But I believe the Rebbe gave dollars to the Tankisten because if you want to talk about a relationship, we have none. None! But the Rebbe gave us things to do. And when we do those things, as small as we are and as great as he is, we're connected. That's the bond. That's the kesher. So the Rebbe gave dollars to Tankisten because Tankisten are doing what the Rebbe asked. The Rebbe isn't saying you shouldn't learn daven. If I can't, it was very frustrating to the Rebbe if we didn't learn or we didn't daven. But that's not where the kesher is. The kesher is a time. So I said this in the Farbrengen. So there's a guy sitting there who's a big Talmud Chacham. He learns day and night. He's a very special person. And the truth of the matter is, if anybody needs a chavrusa, he needs parnasa. Come speak to me privately. Maybe you can arrange. You should learn Torah, and he'll have a couple of dollars. It'll be a win-win. He's a special younger man, and he pushes needs parnasa. And it bothered him very deeply. It bothered him that I said this. Why? I'm sure he does Mivtzoim also, but he's a Torah person. So after the Farbrengen, he came over to me and he said, he didn't say you embarrassed me, but I did embarrass him. I embarrassed myself. So I didn't answer him. I didn't answer him. Shabbos, a couple of days after, I saw him in shul. So I went over to him and I said to him, listen, I said, we all have lives. And we do a lot of things in our lives. Some of us, we're shluchim. A shliach's breakfast is shlichus. A shliach's everything. A shliach's home is shlichus. Yeah. We're not all zoiche to have that absolute bond, but we all serve. I said to him, there needs to be something in your life that you do for the Rebbe. It could be Torah. But this is not Torah that you're learning for you. This is Torah that you learn as a chassid doing for the Rebbe. And this is where the connection is. And where the connection is, you see the Rebbe. I'm telling you that I know this in my life. I don't have miracles. In my teaching, I have miracles. When I do what's my job, which is to teach chassidus to people, how do you have a miracle in teaching? Okay, it's hard to explain, but I'll give a shiur and I'll prepare. I usually prepare. And I'll give a shiur which I did not prepare. It's not my words. They came from someplace else. It happens often. And I feel that this is the Rebbe words in my mouth because I'll say things that I didn't know. Mamish. I don't see it in other things. You see the Rebbe in the things you do for the Rebbe. And this is true for a balabas. I mean, I have students, just like you. Guys, business people, they travel with that film and they find people, they put film on the wackiest places. They find the weirdest Jews. Nobody else is ever going to reach them except a businessman. When you do something because you're a Lubavitcher, because everyone wants you to do it, This is your connection to the Rebbe. This is your Zare B'Chaim, and this is where you see the Hu B'Chaim. The miracles, you see the Rebbe in your life, in the parts of your life that you serve the Rebbe. That's how I feel. And it's a good policy, you know. You want a better life, yeah? You want to be closer to the Rebbe. Do what the Rebbe wants, because in that you see the Rebbe. You see the Rebbe in the things in your life that you do that connect you, that bind us, that connect us to the Rebbe. The Rebbe gave all of us a job. There's not a Jew on the planet that doesn't have a job where the Rebbe is concerned. We have to do it. And if we do it, and when we do it, and where we do it, and how we do it, it's not only that it connects us to the Rebbe, this is where we see the Hu B'Chaim. We see the Rebbe in our lives, in our shlichus. I really believe that. And I believe that this is not just true for a person who is officially a shliach. If you're a Lubavitcher Chassid and you have a route where every week you meet a few yid and you put tefillin on them, or whatever or you bring this person and that person matzah before Pesach. In everybody in their own shlichus, in their own avodah, in their own chassidus, in their own connection to the Rebbe, this is where you see the Rebbe. And if you make it more, you'll see it more. It's very simple. If you'll do it more, you'll see it more. It's a to teva kabashmalan. I'm just making a suggestion to understand that this is the in the Hu B'Chaim, in the Zare B'Chaim, you see the Hu B'Chaim. And it's a good idea to increase these activities. I mean, business people have opportunities that Balabatim don't have. Everybody knows this. Shluchim cannot reach all the Jews in the world. There are business people that Shliach cannot reach. You could. And the only reason, the Rebbe would say, the only reason you're meeting this person is that you should put film on him or talk to him about Sheva Mitzvah Menech, whatever it is. And that makes us Lubavitchers, that connects us to the Rebbe. And it culminates, it reveals, it celebrates this Yom Tov. Pasuk Pshutai. It literally it reveals the oimek, the toiche, the inyan of Chamisha B'Teves, which is Ma Zare B'Chaim Afu B'Chaim. So this is a suggestion. It's a practical suggestion. I think you agree with me. I think you know that in the parts of your life where you're closest to the Rebbe is closest to you. So you should increase it. L'chaim v'levrach, everybody. L'chaim v'levrach. L'chaim tev m'shalom. L'chaim v'levrach. We want Mashiach now. L'chaim v'levrach. L'chaim v'levrach. L'chaim v'levrach. L'chaim v'levrach.
My wife.
What's your name?
David Taish.
Hi, David Taish. I'm Yossi Paltiel. L'chaim
Yes.
v'levrach.
My wife works for
What's your name, sir?
Shimon Klein.
Shimon Klein. Come here, Shimon Klein. Are you a Levi?
Nine.
Sei Yisroel.
But he became about.
Bist a kleine Klein, sei a größer Klein, sei a mittelmäßiger Klein. This is my website, sir.
He doesn't have internet, Chacham.
Interwegen, Tefaran Internet. Interwegen. Give me a look up, and if you like it, you'll look at me again. Nice to meet you, sir. My phone number is on there also.
Okay.
My
My wife works for federal court as a court reporter. 2 years ago, she was doing a case with a judge, Brian Cogan.
She's a reporter.
She's a court reporter.
A court reporter.
So the trial of the judge was Brian Cogan. She remember she was looking. We were talking about TEVES. She did the TEVES book fair, the 21st Lubavitch Shiva. Remember, there was a junior lawyer, Brian Cogan. So she said after hours she rang the secretary of the judge. Can I ask him a question? She goes up to his chambers. She said, "Is it possible you could have been this lawyer back in the TEVES book case?" He says, "Yeah, I was a junior lawyer." And
On our side?
No.
The other side.
He is the actual lawyer who deposed the Rebbe. So my wife asked, "What is your opinion? Because you're the losing side." He said, "It's impossible that it was an inheritance case." I mean, what he's saying, it's partially an inheritance case. There's no way that we should not have won. Al pi seichel, we should not have won. So then he said, he didn't win. It was Barry should have won. So then my wife explained a little. She didn't want to dig too deep with the judge, but she explained how TEVES became.
But what about his impression of the Rebbe?
Rebbetzin is very good. His impression that he called them Rabbi Mendel and Rabbi Joseph. They thought that was the Rebbetzin. The Friedrich wrote a letter on behalf of the Svarim, and you think that was like not a true statement.
Right.
my wife said, how could you think that the head rabbi could possibly be lying? Yeah, but they have a different point of view on everything. It's very interesting. It's like that she said, explained it how it became the price of Yom Tov.
You know what Yudel Krinsky said?
Yeah.
The trial was 3 weeks, Monday to Friday. The last Friday of the trial was around this time, after Hanukkah. The judge suddenly says, I want to look at Mr. Schneison's deposition again. He sat down and he watched it for 10 minutes. And he kept on saying, remarkable.
Her testimony, her deposition.
Go ahead. He wanted to see it again.
It's interesting.
The camera's on, yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
I meet your mother once in a while in the supermarket and we ask about the topic.
Amen. Thank you for asking. Baruch Hashem.
And my son in Chicago owes a lot to your father. I can understand the fees. I have right now. I have to issue my balance lately, so I have to
La 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 la